Wow, Roger McGuinn is kind of like the Forrest Gump of music. He's been at all the right places at the right times. And it's true.
Well, these days, the right place for McGuinn includes zipping around on a scooter, tinkering with a solar device, or just sitting at his computer. But back in the 60s, as a founding member of the Byrds, he was in one of the hottest rock bands on the planet. Hits like Mr. Tambourine Man and Turn, Turn, Turn sealed his legacy as one of the most influential musicians of his era. Back then, he was 8 miles high. Today, he's over 8 decades old. You'd probably think he misses those days, but not really.
You've got to know, Roger, that so many people have a hard time wrapping their heads around that. Like they think, this guy was in one of the biggest bands in the history of rock and roll. Those must be the glory days. Those must be the days that he yearns for.
Well, you could look at it that way. I remember, though, I do lectures, and I was at a school, and one of the students said, well, what was the best thing you ever did in the music business? And I said, get out of it.
He didn't get completely out, just far enough that what he does is entirely up to him.
Ramblin' Jack Elliott told me once that the most fun he ever had was when he threw the guitar in the back of the Land Rover and he and his wife barnstormed around the country. And I said, man, that sounds like fun compared to what I had been doing, which was kind of a grind with the band. And so I said, I want to do that.
Hey, this is Spaceman. Won't you please take me out? I won't do anything wrong.
And that's what he's been doing. Just Roger and his wife Camilla, traveling together, taking it slow, touring the country, enjoying the view. It's been a while since McGuinn's been 8 miles high, and he's just fine with that.
Well, do you miss it? And I don't. I really don't. Because what I'm doing is so fulfilling. I do these about 2-hour concerts, and I tell stories, and it's the story of my life. You've seen the show, so you know what it is. And it's just fun for me.
And take me disappearing through. And David Crosby said, I don't like it, man. I don't like it. It's that folky 2/4 time. It's never going to play on the radio.
What do you feel? What do you remember from back then? What stayed with you?
Well, I think what really hit me was the excitement when we were first getting it together. In 1964, we were just kind of all from different parts of folk music, and the Beatles had come out, and we were inspired by the movie A Hard Day's Night, and we wanted to do that because it looked like so much fun, and it was. And we got to do it, and we got a #1, and we got to meet the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and it was just incredible, you know. And then it kind of went downhill from there. And so I like to say that the Byrds was a nice 9-year detour from what I really want to do, was be like Pete Seeger and tell stories and get people to sing along.
He didn't just want to do it, he needed to. Because when he says it went downhill, what he means is the rock and roll lifestyle nearly destroyed him.
Well, and I think drugs had a profound effect on it.
So at first, drugs were good and glorified, and then we kind of saw that they really weren't.
It doesn't make it better. Maybe it makes you think it's better while you're doing it, but it's not better. I was doing those drugs. I was doing amphetamines and downers and Quaaludes and all kinds of stuff, and smoking pot and doing cocaine at the same time. And so Elvis was 7 years older than I was when he died. I was 35, he was 42. And I went, man, I better clean up my act. Gene Clark died, Michael Clark, Greg Thomas, my old drummer. Wow. Skip Batten, almost everybody I ever worked with.
Did you feel like you were headed on a collision course with an early death too?
Well, that's what the impression I got when Elvis died. Yeah, that was a feeling. And I started to see behind the sugar coating, I started to see evil for what it was.
McGuinn turned to religion. Not only did it save him, it guided him to his wife and to his many passions. And here's something you may not know. It inspired him to create one of the greatest archives of traditional folk music found anywhere.
The origin of the folk den was to put songs up on the internet for free download and put the chords and the lyrics and the story about the song and a little picture to go along with it, like a coffee table book.
1, 2, 3. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound.
Finding really good ones can get tricky, and so far there are 320 on my website, McGuinn.com, in the Folk Den section sponsored by UNC Chapel Hill as a public service.
It's an unexpected treasure of the roots of music.
Yeah, well, it's still a labor of love for me. Not everybody knows about it.
27 years every month,
Yeah.
offering a brand new song that we can download
Yeah.
and take with us. How long do you want to keep doing that?
Well, as long as I can. It's the same with performing. It's like, how long do you want to keep performing? I love it. I want to quit doing something I love.
It's a great question, and McGuinn does seem truly timeless. Not only is it hard for us to remember that he's in his 80s, but you get the feeling that he doesn't think about age very often himself.
Oh, well, it's a shock, and it's a kind of a fun surprise. I feel great, but I'm 80. And, well, the good thing is a lot of people look at me and say, oh, come on, man, you must be kidding. So that's nice.
What would 25-year-old Roger McGuinn have thought of 80-year-old Roger McGuinn?
It wouldn't. It never occurred to me. It just never occurred to me. Well, back in the day, we didn't think we were going to live past 30. That was old age. Never trust anybody over 30. 30 was it.
Is that the way you felt?
There was a generation gap that's it's still around. It's just not as pronounced as it was. But people over 30 were not of the same mental attitude.
And that may have been true back then,
Yeah,
too.
I think it was.
What if we put some of that Bach-like stuff on the front of Mr. Tambourine Man and kick it up with a Beatle beat? It might come out okay for radio.
Even at 80, nothing about Roger McGuinn seems old. His curiosity, his passion, his excitement for life is palpable, and maybe that's his message. He's fully aware how special his life has been, which is why he plans to keep touring. Telling his story is not just one of his greatest joys. Audiences everywhere love it too.
It's the soundtrack of their lives, and it makes them feel young and happy. And you could say, well, that's just nostalgia, but it's therapeutic for people.
And who better than you to do it? You do a great job with it.
Thank you.